As you're aware, I don't do much news. I tend to stay away from the news because I find that the more that you look at that kind of stuff, you attract it. I understand there is racism. I understand that people have issues. And as we said at the meeting the other night, I think people need to open up their hearts more, understand a little bit more about where we all come from, what we all like, what we don't like, and have a little bit of respect for each other. Tell me about the news.
A lot of footballers have been using the N-word to describe each other or to slag each other on the pitch. John Terry was involved in an incident where he racially abused a black footballer who decided that he was going to complain about it. It went to court. He was found not guilty. And then he's been found guilty by the Football Association for using racial terms.
Why do you think this always happens then? Because nobody's doing anything. Well, they are doing something about it, but nothing.
Well, apparently they've got Let's Kick Racism Out of Football scheme going on. But a lot of the black footballers were protesting yesterday by not wearing the T-shirts because they don't think the Let's Kick It Out of Football is doing enough for it. Talking about the meeting we had the other day with the police, the police are surprised that in 30 years, in the last 30 years in Preston, we've had two black police officers. Now, I'm shocked that they're surprised that there's only been two black police officers. You was there at the meeting the other night. How did you think it went?
The meeting was very good, and as you're aware, the time goes very, very quickly. It was very interesting. There was a lot of personal stories that were aired, and the police did assure us that they would look into those after the meeting. I do think, though, that, as I mentioned that night, people need to know more about their rights and what they're entitled to do, say, and be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Then the next one we do is going to be about your rights, and so when people are stopped by the police, that they do know whether they can give the name and the address and everything else, and just make sure that the police are policing them properly.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's like you said. I mean, I wonder if those that are listening, how many of our young people would join the police force? You mentioned that night, and we're celebrating Black History.
My generation from the 80s, I can't see any of them.
You'd make a good police officer.
I would never make a good police officer.
You would make a good police officer.
Why?
Education, where you've come from, your experiences. Why wouldn't you go into the police? You don't have to be a police officer beating the streets, but you could have some input within the police. Well, you do.
Yeah, Glenda, I'm 50 years old. I wouldn't want to start being a police officer now. I wouldn't feel comfortable being a police officer.
Why wouldn't you feel
I wouldn't have even felt comfortable being a police officer 30 years ago.
Yeah, but you work with the police.
Doesn't mean I want to be a police officer.
So
I work with women. I wouldn't want to be a woman.
I bet you would.
Not even for a minute.
No, but seriously. For the young people, why would they want to go into the police?
I'm a different generation. The views that I have about the police are about the same as everybody else in my generation, what we've seen growing up. I wouldn't want to put myself in that position.
So
it's bad enough leaving the house being disliked by different races because you're black, but then you leave your house with that uniform on and you've got everybody else hating you as well. That's what I've got in my head, so that's why I won't make a good police officer. But maybe looking at you, Glenda, actually, you look like you'd look good in a police uniform.
I'd love to have been in the police force, but as I told you the other night, it wasn't something that was...
So why would you not want to be one?
Because I want to do different things now.
No, but I'm talking about our generation.
Well, when I was younger, I did want to go into the RAF, the
RAF?
The RAF. But my mum said no.
Did you ever consider being a police officer?
No.
But that's what I'm trying to say to you. Why?
But I wanted to go into the...
But why wouldn't you have been the police?
It was the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it was the same thing.
Difference...
It wasn't because they weren't taking us, but I was also, by family, it wasn't considered because of the colour of your skin. Because I was black, you can't go in the police force, you can't be a nurse, really.
You can't be a nurse because you're black?
No, well, if you're black, you can go into the medical profession and be a nurse or an auxiliary. Those other types of jobs were not seen for people like us. I mean, we came into the type of work we did, which was with the race relations.
Community work, yeah.
And with the community. And without that kind of work, you wouldn't be here where you are today. Or me. We got some, what do you call it?
We first started in 1983 as interviewers. We was interviewing the black community in Preston.
Now that takes us back.
Right, to find out what the problems were because of the riots in the 80s, they didn't know what to do with young black people because they thought they were all crazy because of rioting. So they decided to find out what was going on in Preston to calm the black people down. So when we did our interviews, it was to find out from the community what they wanted, and what they wanted was a community centre. So we got a unity centre after. I don't know if you were aware of that.
Yes.
Through our interviews that we did, the unity centre.
Yes.
And when we had the unity centre, we'd average about 30 or 40 young black people in there,
yes.
And which kept them out of jail. Some of them were going to jail an average of 3 times a year. And when they had the unity centre, it cut right down. And talking about black history and black man time, he is one who can't keep time. Sean Ross, right on cue, about 2 hours late. So when we first started the community work, that's what our work did. We got ourselves a community centre.
But when you think 1983,
yeah, it's 30 years ago now.
and we're still talking about race.
We're still talking about the same stuff that was talking.
But don't
yeah,
you think
just
it'll
wait,
always
Linda.
be there?
But at the start of this interview, you said that things have changed.
They have.
But you've just said just now, we started community work 30 years ago, and we're still talking about the same. Just wait, we're still talking about the same things we talked about 30 years ago. So how can things have changed?
Because we're older. You're older.
Just wait.
No,
I'm the other one who's aged in 30 years.
We're older. We are older. We're wiser. We have children ourselves.
But things haven't changed, though.
Of course they have. How we?
Well, just wait. If you're telling me things have changed, then tell me where they changed, because some people don't see it.
Okay. When we was younger, I think that our parents were more protective of us, for us to venture out and gain, like for going out clubbing, or we were kept close together within the community.
I think the black women were kept inside more than the black men.
I don't think so.
I can look around here, I see these guys out all the time. Nothing stopped them from going out.
Black women go out.
I didn't see that. Just wait, we've got a guy in the studio who's
black
not on camera. Did you, Mr. Linton, did you see any, can you remember seeing any black women out of our age group?
I'm sure Mr. Linton saw many black women.
Only 1 or 2, there wasn't.
Yes, but it was different then.
That's what I'm saying, Glenda.
Yes, but we all were part of the same community.
Yeah.
Everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
Now we have it that it's more mixed. You started and mentioned, like, we have mixed race children, or of black and white, right? There is a more broader.
Go on.
In people like black and white, we mix more, whereas we tend to mix with our own. We went to Mets, we hang around together, and then introduced him through our music, which is quite significant, through our music and the things that we like to do. Other people within our community, white, Asian, came in, and the group broadened out. There are things like that have changed, subtly, but it's true. You know what I mean?
I don't see it as much as you do. I understand what you're saying.
Maybe that's because you're focused more on it.
On what?
On the racial issues.
I'm not focused on racial issues.
Not to.
I'm aware of racial issues.
Yes, but you're in it.
But
more.
you just said before that you're not aware of racial issues.
I am.
Because
I am aware.
you don't watch the news.
No, I said I don't.
I tell you what, Glenda, you're doing a lot of contradiction on this interview. I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to rewind it just to prove what you...
Listen, all I'm
to me.
saying
No,
is...
just wait.
all-
I'm
no,
listening
let
to
me
you.
finish,
I'm
let me
listening to you,
let me
right?
finish. I knew you was going to be
No,
controversial.
I'm not
I
going to be
knew he was.
controversial.
Do you know that?
I listen to you, but
let
you're
me
contradicting
say,
yourself
no,
all
I'm
the
not
time. Okay, go ahead,
contradicting myself.
go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is,
Yeah.
for me personally,
Yeah.
I just think that people need to be more open. Yes, we are all aware of racial issues, right? What I'm trying to say is, love yourself first, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you love yourself first, you won't look at someone else because of the colour of his skin. If you've got issues with someone about colour, right, or whatever, he could have what he could, you know what I mean? What type of job he does, or because he's a police officer, you will treat that person differently. But we do have people in our society, in our community, who don't think like that, don't feel like that for whatever reason. And then we're going into another subject.
Yeah, but you've got to look at why they feel like that and think like
Yes,
that.
you do. But how are you going to fix that?
You can't, because if they've been on a certain journey, and that journey's not been kind to them, where they face a lot of racism, where they face a lot of barriers, where people are stopping them from getting a job, getting an education, just getting on with life. If they've had that kind of journey, you can't blame that individual. Just wait. You can't blame that individual for feeling a certain way, because if you haven't travelled in his shoes, then you shouldn't point your finger.
I'm not pointing fingers.
It sounds like you point your finger to me.
No, sweet.
Okay. Go on, is there anything else that's bothering you?
No,
How long
wait
have we
till
got, by the way? Sean, you can take over from me. Sean was supposed to be here about half an hour ago. He kept saying he'd be round the corner, he'd take 2 minutes. And Sean's 2 minutes takes about half an hour. But here's Sean Ross. Thanks, Glenda.
Thank you, Adrian.
Yeah, that's true. Hello.
Hiya. I know his mum.
Hello, Ms. Jackson. Good afternoon.
Good
How are
afternoon,
you?
Sean. I'm okay, thank you.
Okay then. So what have I missed?
Well, Adrian as usual.
I'm late 20s. One would certainly imagine that it's definitely been different to yours, and perhaps yours and some of the people in this room. Growing up racially, to be honest with you, I was one of these people who I was brought up, in church, and I was the only black boy at school, at any of the schools that I went to, pretty much. I don't think that any sort of racial issues became a problem in my life. I think I was aware of them, but they were just water off a duck's back, I think, with the innocence of youth. What I've realised from my own experiences and from others' experiences is that when I became a man, and that others saw that I was a man, and I wanted more than perhaps some of my peers, whether they be white or black, that seemed to be a problem for a lot of the people here, and that seems to be when problems start. So when you're in education or when people are trying to get ahead in jobs, I definitely think there's a huge barrier there for black people, black men especially, that can't be ignored, especially by our own people. With all due respect, I don't know what you think to that.
No, I'm interested in hearing what you say, because I do think, as for men particularly, I find that they get a raw deal, and I mean you're in your late 20s, so but don't you think that, like you said just before, you didn't realise until you was older. You was aware when you was younger, but not until you got older that it was apparent.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends, a lot of my close friends growing up have been white. We rarely ever had any racial issues. Whether we were out or whatever else and stuff. I haven't.
But this is another thing that I was saying before. You see, you were able to mix with others in your community, with white people, call it white people, English people, Asians. When I was growing up, we would tend to be with our own community in church, or in the youth club. Do you get what I mean? So there's not as much tension with your immediate community, would you say? Do you get what I mean?
Tension with my immediate.
No, there's because everybody's getting on with each other. Like in school, like you said, you was the only black child in school.
Yeah.
So you have friends who was English.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
No, to be honest, I couldn't tell you if they were friends or not because my mum didn't let me outside other than school hours.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I was at school and got onto any naughtiness at school, and then as soon as I got home, that was it. The door didn't open up again till the morning after. So I don't really know what was going on outside, to be honest with you. You know, I don't know if I had any really good friends at school, but like I say, it only became a problem. This whole white and black thing seemed to only be apparent and make itself prevalent when I wanted more. So it happens in jobs, not just myself. There seems to be a systematic winding up, a provocation, of black men sometimes in certain jobs when they get into jobs. So it's not a problem if they're not getting jobs. It's a problem of once they're in the jobs, it's incredibly difficult to stay in there because I would imagine that some of the people who are already there are thinking, well, why are you here? Why my cousin could be doing this job, my brother, my uncle could be doing this job, and there's a little systematic winding up of that individual until he either loses it, somebody tells a lie on him or whatever else, and then he's out of that job, and it's very, very difficult for them to pick themselves up. You know, we are strong individuals as black men, but I mean, we're not what's the word? We're not completely indestructible, And I would imagine it gets an awful lot of people down. The more rejection you face, the more winding up and provocation that you face, till the point of where we are. The stats are there. For black men, we don't make up a huge part of this country, but the ones that are here for some reason, we've got massive unemployment issues now. I don't understand that. I don't know if you can explain that, but I don't understand that.
I don't know about because I moved from Preston, so I have travelled a bit. Now in London, you'll find that it's a big difference. When you walk into the supermarket, you're going to see another black face, a lot of black faces. Where here in Preston, you walk into the supermarket, you might spot two, and then you know who they are. So I see the difference there, depending on the region where you live. Yeah, I've travelled to Italy, France, Holland, where black people are treated differently. And that, in my opinion, comes from where they come from. It's not about race because they're a particular colour. It's mainly because of the political issues. That's my own experience from where I came, especially when I went to Italy. And I lived in Italy, and people used to say, oh, well, in Italy it's more racist, or I never found that, For me, I don't walk into a place, or if I'm looking for work and find, or walk around and think, well, he doesn't like me because the colour of my skin. I don't pay attention to it. Maybe that's my thing. I don't have it. Do you get what I mean?
I understand that.
But I know that people do. I know that when I lived in London, I had a friend, she was from Nigeria. Yeah? And my eldest, he was only little, and we were going to school, and the way I was aware that how people treated her, mainly because how she spoke, because and she said, but why do they talk to you differently than they talk to me? But I knew it was because she was from Nigeria, so people judged her because she was African.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, when I lived in Italy, they would say, oh, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. Are you related to Michael Jackson? Do you know Bob Marley? Well, it was because they had an image given to them about what they expected me to be. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't know you, but people are given an image and presume that they judge you and they don't even know you just by, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, oh definitely, yeah, certainly. I mean, I can't come from a female perspective, but as you were saying earlier though, I think one of the problems is people are experiencing racism. I think children are experiencing it in schools. I think adults are experiencing it in the workplace. What I think a lot of the problem is that people can't necessarily identify it. It's a very difficult thing to be able to identify, a very difficult thing to be able able to provide evidence of. So it's very easy for people, even from the black community, to say, nah, you're being a little bit too sensitive there. And it's very easy for people who are experiencing it to not say anything. And I think that's happening an awful lot. You know, fortunately, we've got laureates, you know, from the black community who've written about this and speak about it regularly. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is the fact that people don't feel that they can, you know, I think that they know that they're experiencing it, but because there isn't any tangible proof necessarily, it's just the odd remark here, the odd action here, or the lack of an action here.
But I definitely agree. I agree though, if you feel, and I'd say this to anybody, for whatever situation you're in, if you believe that you're being treated unfairly, you have to do something about it. Don't you think? Do you get what I mean? Do so, you can say something to somebody. Don't. What do you think?
To whom exactly?
To who?
Yeah.
Well, if you're a child and you feel you're being victimised because of the colour of your skin or racism, who would you speak to first? Your parents?
Yes. Okay.
You've got to speak to your parents.
And from there, what can the parents do?
Well, you've got...
If your child comes to the school,
I'd go to the school. I'd speak to the school.
What would you expect to happen?
Well, I understand from... there are procedures in place in the schools in Preston that it is... I mean, you might be able to clarify on this. It has to be noted with the authorities, doesn't it? If another child has called another child, a black child, the N-word, for example.
You can say it. It wasn't called the N-word when you was at school, Glenda. Say what it was called.
Right, okay. If a child calls a black child nigger, it has to be reported. The school has a... I'm trying to think of the word.
Well, they've got a duty to
They've got a duty to report it.
Okay.
So maybe a lot of people are aware of that. Yeah. That you have to say something. I've always said that to my children. Anything, you know. If you're not happy, tell me, and we'll do something about it. That's something else. But that's my personal opinion. Not everybody's the same. And I think I learned from my growing up, you know, that if there was something not right at school, my dad would go up to the school, you know.
Can I just change the subject a little bit?
Yeah.
Just to ask you both a question. Sean, as a young black man, what is it with your generation of black men that always seem to go into relationships with white women?
Hold on.
I don't believe you.
And to you, Glenda, there's a lot of black women out there who are not looking at black men anymore. They're going straight to white guys. I'm just asking, you know. In the old days, it was taboo. You couldn't do it and get away with it. But things, like you said, things have changed.
To do it and get away with it.
So you know, what is it about your generation, Sean, and your generation of black women?
But your generation...
Can I just finish? That don't seem to find their own race attractive anymore.
I disagree with that. I disagree.
In what way? Sorry.
Just because you're not on camera.
Are you in a relationship?
I am in a relationship.
Is it? Can I just ask what race he is?
He's English.
Excuse me?
He's English.
Human.
English is in white English or black English? Oh, he's white? Okay, that's my point. Do you not find black men attractive anymore?
I think black men are very attractive.
How come you can't seem to find one? Is there no good